سلام میکنم دوستان عزیز به اجوکیشن USA خوش اومدید. اجوکیشن USA ایران هستش. این وبینار امروز درباره برنامه‌های بیزنس در ایالات متحده، بیشتر برنامه‌های MBA هستش. ما امروز دو تا مهمان داریم از دانشگاه مریوود یونیورسیتی. آقای کریستوفر سپیکر هستن. سپیکر sorry if I mispronounce your last name. و آقای کریستیان دیگرگیو از دانشگاه مریوود یونیورسیتی هستن. آقای کریستیان دایرکتور ادمیشنز هستن، کسی که تصمیم میگیرن برای قبولی دانشگاه. از ایشون دعوت کردیم که امروز به این وبینار بیان که بیشتر درباره برنامه بیزنس با ما بیشتر صحبت کنن و بهمون بگن که تحصیل کردن تو مقطع MBA و رفتن به دانشگاه درباره بیزنس خوندن به چه حالتی هست و به چه صورتی هستش. Okay. Before we start this webinar, I just would like to have you introduce yourselves. I kind of give a little bit of introduction and I introduced you to my students. But if you can go ahead and introduce yourself and talk about your position and your responsibilities and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Christian DiGregorio. I'm the Senior Director of Admissions here at Marywood University. I've been at Marywood for 15 years. We've had a lot of international students come through, and we're always looking to educate more people from all over the world. I handle the international recruitment initiatives. We handle also the documentation, the applications, the review process, a number of other factors, and communicate with the student all the way from the time that they inquire to right up to the point when they arrive on campus.
My name is Dr. Christopher Spiker. I am a faculty member in the School of Business and Global Innovation. I teach specifically courses in entrepreneurship, and I direct our entrepreneurship program along with the Entrepreneurship Launchpad, which we have on campus. Additionally, I also teach various courses on international business in the School of Business and Global Innovation. I run the internship program as well, so I place many students, and including graduate students, into internships throughout the world at various locations. And I'm very actively involved in the admissions process with Christian in terms of recruiting international students.
Okay. Just before we go ahead, where exactly is Marywood University located?
Scranton is in northeastern section of Pennsylvania. We're about 2 hours north of Philadelphia and 2 hours west of New York City. We're located in the Pocono Mountains, which is a very scenic area. What's nice about the area is just very close to campus you have a vibrant city life, and then going into the other direction you have the mountains and the lakes and things like that. So it's a very, very desirable area to be in.
Wonderful. Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask, so I inform my students that this webinar is going to be primarily about business, mostly at the graduate level, but maybe we can touch on some undergraduate level as well, some business majors that are offered in the US and specifically your school. So what is business education in the United States? Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And if you could just broadly talk about what is business education in the US, and then just move on talking about what is business education at Marywood.
Okay. Well, business education in the United States is geared specifically towards students who are interested in working in a business environment. And that ranges everything from small startup companies all the way up to Fortune 500 companies where we place students. So business education is very, very broad, meaning when you come to a place like Marywood or any MBA program, you're going to have a very broad education on specific issues. So, for instance, in our program, we have 6 core classes that you must study, as do most programs across the country. They include marketing, legal systems, accounting for managers, most of the types of classes that you would expect to have a very specific knowledge of once you complete your master's or your graduate studies at an institution. Marywood is much different than most schools around the United States in that our faculty all come to us with a minimum of 10 years experience in the outside world, meaning they've worked in business in the area in which they teach for a minimum of 10 years. That's our requirement internally, but the reality is that most of the faculty come to us with a minimum of 20 years of experience. And that sets us aside from almost all business schools in the United States. Most business schools are taught by faculty members who go through their graduate program and really don't have a lot of outside experience in the business world. We're just the opposite. As a small school trying to get known in the United States, we've adopted a policy that all of our faculty will come from major entities and corporations around the world, and will have worked in real positions in their fields of study long before they arrive here on campus. And that really sets us aside. So what that does for the student, it gives the student a very, very practical application of the things they're going to be learning in the classroom. And it gives the faculty member a greater understanding of what they should be teaching in the classroom that's actually applicable and practical, that's used in the outside world. So we have a very unique mix, and it's very unlike most schools in the U.S. and also Europe or almost anywhere else in the world, in that we are very, very practically oriented, meaning all of our faculty have practical knowledge in the field in which they're teaching.
Wonderful. Could you talk a little about students who want to come to the U.S. And study business at the undergraduate level? Could you give us a little bit sense of what business majors or fields are offered in the U.S.? What is the main difference between undergraduate versus graduate level studies in business?
The undergraduate is mostly going to deal with, you're getting a bachelor level degree, so it's 4 years, it's a little more broad. Your graduate level is you're going to get into a more specialized area. So maybe you're going to go into your MBA, but maybe a certain track. Or maybe you're going to go and get your marketing degree or entrepreneurship, if it's the case with Marywood, there's a heavy emphasis on that. So the big difference is the amount that you'll study and how focused you are with your topic. So a bachelor's degree is right out of secondary school, approximately 4 years. And then after that, you're going to go on to get your master's degree, which is generally 2 to 3 years, depending on the institution and depending on your program. And again, will be much more specialized.
Yeah, to add to that, the MBA program, also to continue that, has 3 different tracks at this point. And those tracks are general management, finance and investment, and management information systems, MIS. And you take 4 classes in those areas, the areas of specialization. And they're very, very specific. They're very, attuned to what's going out in the real world, a very practical approach to those particular classes, and give the MBA student a real area of specialization that they can market themselves when they're going out seeking jobs from employers.
So, I'm sorry, those specializations that you mentioned, are they the ones offered at your institution, correct? You said there are 4 tracks.
The courses? Yes.
The courses, okay. So I guess that leads us to the next question I was gonna basically ask before you you talked about your MBA program. Just generally, could you tell us what is MBA? What does it stand for? What is MBA education in the U.S.?
An MBA is a Master's in Business Administration. That means that you've mastered all of the particular areas of business. Everything from, again, marketing, finance, to accounting, to MIS, management information systems, to human resource management and deployment, to strategic management and operations management. So all those areas are areas that when you're in a undergraduate program, you get a very broad perspective of those courses. But when you're in a graduate program, they're very, very specific and very detailed and very, very focused. So when you graduate with a degree in a master's in business administration, you will have very, very specific knowledge and very, very specific tools to go and use while you're in the workplace. And again, we try to remain extremely practical in our approach and try to teach students, rather than just teach them everything that's in the textbook. We try to teach them the theories and things that are in the textbook that are applicable in the real world.
Okay, wonderful. So what kind of students should consider an MBA program? What are some traits that students need to possess, or do they have to be interested in a specific topic, or do they have to have specific interests? What kind of students do generally MBA programs attract? Also, kind of like a secondary question tied to this one is what kind of, you kind of touched upon specificity of these programs and the skills they gain, but generally in the U.S., if they come to the U.S. and study, what specific knowledge and skills do students gain? Do they gain practical skills? Do they, is it more academic oriented? Do they get some academic knowledge? And is it a terminal degree? Do they need to, do they have the opportunity to continue their education, or is it like a terminal degree and they can join the workforce right away? And what are some fields of work students can join after finishing an MBA degree in the U.S.?
Yes, our average MBA student is about 28 years old. They've been in the workforce for a few years. They're mid-level to upper-level managers at companies literally around the world. And many of them are companies that would be recognized every part of the world, major insurance companies and financial and brokerage firms from around the world, as well as major industrial manufacturers from around the world. So our students are very, very broad. They come from a very broad background, and they all come with different skill sets that they're experts on. And the beauty of being in MBA classes is that everybody will have a different set of skill sets that they bring to the classroom. And that interaction with other students and working with them who have specific skill sets on different areas than say any other student really enriches and improves the value of the education that students get. It's not only what they're getting from the faculty member, but it's very much what they're getting from the other students in the setting. The other question?
Well, I think I'd like to jump in. We're talking about some personal traits of a student. Students who do very well are students that are very driven, students that are curious, and students who want to know how things work. And that really helps with the entrepreneurship tracks and those classes as well. And someone who's highly organized. I think that's going to help the student out tremendously. Being able to collaborate and work as a team and work as a group of people on a project. Because when you're out in the real world, and that's really what we're doing. We're educating people to go out into the real world and communicate with others and work together and collaborate. And that'll be very important. If you work closely just by yourself, you're going to be limited in what you can do. You need other people to help make up for things that maybe you're not so good at. Everybody has things they are good at and things they're not good at. The very successful people hire others to make up for their deficiencies.
That's true. One of the things that we always tell our students is figure out what you can't do well. Everyone knows the things that they do well or thinks they know the things they do well. But once they realize the things that they don't do well and they're able to augment them or study in those areas to try to improve or hire other people who are excellent in those areas, their businesses dramatically improve. So we try to get students to recognize, what their strengths are as well as what their weaknesses are, in order to make the right hiring decisions and to marry themselves with different people on their teams that work effectively together, bringing different skill sets together. in terms of the type of businesses that our students have started, it's a huge array from medical devices to recreational devices. But we participate in a thing called TechBridge, which is in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. And companies that we have started through TechBridge have created around 2,300 jobs in this region in northeastern Pennsylvania. And they've created about 700, Marywood students in particular have created more than a third of those jobs. Over 750 of those jobs have been created here by Marywood students. So our companies that we start out of Marywood have been very, very successful. We have a lot of international students that participate in these projects, and in particular with business startups, and they've been very successful. We have one of the first winners of this company was a young man from the Czech Republic who went into business with another young man from Bulgaria, and they started a tech company, and that was 13 years ago, and they're still going along very, very well. They have about 50 employees here in the United States, and they've been extremely successful. So we try to give them all the skills that they would need to effectively operate a business, whether it be the accounting side or hiring people or daily operations of the business, or how to think big, how to think in a very entrepreneurial way as to what's next, what's out there, how do I take advantage of those things. That's what we try to teach here.
Wonderful. So from my understanding, an MBA degree is a practical degree. It's a degree that gives you skills and knowledge and hands-on experience and networking to start your own business or actually join another business or start as an employee. So if students are interested in a field that involves research, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, MBA is not a degree for them, right? It's not a very research-oriented degree. It's more practical.
Yes, that's true. The MBA is meant specifically for people who are going to be working in business, but from a beyond the MBA standpoint, it is not a terminal degree. I went back and got my MBA before I went on to my PhD program, and so and then once you get to a PhD program, you become even more specific as to what you want to study. A very small slice of academia, and it's much more research-oriented. It's much more academic, and it's much less hands-on operational type things of how to run a business on a daily basis. So it's a lot of the theory and trying to figure out which of those theories work now and which of those theories are going to work in the future to effectively help businesses operate. But yeah, so it's not a terminal degree, an MBA. It is a degree, in conjunction with a lot of institutions. You can go on and start studying your PhD level. We have two students who graduated last year who are both in PhD programs in the Philadelphia area, actually at my alma mater, Temple University. And every year we get 1 to 2 students that go on to PhD programs somewhere else. A lot of students go out and work for a few years and then go on to PhD programs because they want to get very practical. To be more valuable in the business setting, in the global business setting, companies are looking for people who have practical experience. So a real good mix of academics coupled with a really excellent mix of jobs in the outside world is how we make students more marketable around the world. And we find that that's much more successful than just going through and doing a straight academic track. In our hiring, we don't even look at students like that do solely academic because we feel that business is a practice. It's something that you have to physically do and be out there to do. So for us, we look for people that have that practical experience. And the more practical experience our students have, the better our classroom experience is here and the better students they are. And that's exactly what we look for.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm a student in Iran and I want to come to the U.S. and study MBA. What is the first thing I need to do? What is any recommendation? What is the first step in? Do I need to go online and find a program, or How is the application? Where would they apply? What is the application process like for an international student, more specifically Iranian student?
It can be a very daunting process, very complex process. I think first the student needs to think about what exactly do they want to do? What major do they want? Is it just an MBA or a certain track within the MBA? And then what kind of school are they looking for? What does the student believe in, and does the school also share those beliefs? So for Marywood, we're very entrepreneurial, very hands-on. A student may not want that. They may go for something more theory-based. So they may look for a different institution. A good idea is to just go online. I'm sure Education USA has a list of schools that would provide an MBA degree or other business degree, and they would start there. Then they should contact the admissions office of the school they're interested in applying to. Generally, the schools are going to ask for an application. Some applications will have an application fee tied to it. Some schools don't, so it all depends. Some schools are going to ask then for documentation. Documentation may consist of GMAT scores or GRE scores, which are standardized tests that students may need to take in order to gain admission. Currently, Marywood University does not require GMAT or GRE scores. Students will ask to send translated transcripts from either their secondary school, if they're looking for an undergraduate degree, or from everywhere that they studied, from their college or higher education, if they're looking for an MBA. So again, those do need to be translated and sent to us. Talk to your admissions office. Some schools may require that you get those sent to a third party, such as WES or another. There's a few different. ECE, I think, is another program that you would send transcripts to have translated or to have. When I say translated into an American system of higher education. I don't believe they offer English translation services. That would need to be done by the student. They would also, students would also need to provide English language results from an IELTS or a TOEFL, something like that. Generally, if the student has already studied in English, they may not need to provide a TOEFL or IELTS. It depends, again, on the institution. You should also be prepared to show your finances, not only to the institution, but when you go for your visa, the visa officer is going to ask for your financial documents to make sure that you have enough or the ability to pay for your studies while you're away from your home country. But again, talk to your admissions offices. They may ask for a few more things or a few less. It really depends. For Marywood, again, we don't require GMAT or GRE. We would ask you for a TOEFL or an IELTS score, or if you have Pearson, something like that, that's fine too. You could please send it off. Documentation can be provided electronically to some schools, and then when you arrive to campus, the official copies or true copies would then need to be submitted.
So you said your institution doesn't require a GMAT or a GRE, no standardized.
That's correct. When we looked at the success of the student and tried to correlate that with GMAT scores, there really was no correlation. A lot of it was based on how well the student had done in the classroom from their previous institution.
Okay. And more specifically to your institution, is there a minimum score for IELTS and TOEFL for MBA programs or business programs?
Right. We would want an IELTS band of 6.0 or a TOEFL score of 79 on the internet-based test. If you were able to provide that to us, that'll be helpful. GPA-wise, whatever converts to about a 3.0 GPA on a 4-point scale, that generally works for us. And we understand that a lot of schools, a lot of countries have different grading scales, different systems, and we adjust to that.
Okay, wonderful. So another question that a lot of my students ask me all the time, and I wanted to maybe get the answer more specifically in the field of business, is when a student expresses their interest in MBA, but they don't have any experience in business. They studied something unrelated to business. They studied maybe philosophy or music or political science or even art, and now they want to pursue an MBA degree, and this is what they found out about their passion. What do you recommend to those students? Is it possible for someone who doesn't have any experience to want to get an MBA degree or any business degree at the graduate level, or do you think that's not a good idea?
No, we actually encourage students from other areas because, really almost any area that you're going to be in, you have to understand the business side of it. So we have a lot of students that are in our program and a lot of students who apply to our program who are from other areas who have not studied business as an undergraduate. So there's two ways in which we handle that. We have a series of 8 prerequisites that you can take in 1-credit courses prior to arrival and starting the program. Most of them are done in the summertime prior to when students start, and then some of them are done over the winter break, which is in January. Then we have also added a 3-credit kind of introduction to business, which covers all of those things in a 7-week period of time. And so the student can elect if they want to do which path they want to go. We recommend the 3-credit course because it's counted towards your graduate degree and it's an introduction to business, and it gives you all the tools, the student all the tools that they would need to successfully complete the MBA program. It takes all those key undergraduate components in every area and kind of is a very quick-paced 7-week introduction to business that gives the students, again, the tools to succeed once they arrive here on campus. So there are 2 paths you can go, and we do encourage, that's the spice of business, is people with much different backgrounds coming together and talking about what they've done. We do encourage people who don't have a pure business background or studies in straight business as an undergraduate to apply.
Okay. Is that the case generally for most MBA programs in the U.S., or is it just for Marywood University?
I can't, to be honest with you, I can't really say. We, in terms of our students, we try to be very, very broad. We try to bring students in from a very wide class that have very different backgrounds, and we find that that's the most successful path to creating the best MBA experience for our students. And we literally have students from every sector, from, again, small startups all the way up to huge companies at all aspects, whether they're working in marketing or manufacturing or operations or human resources. Each of those students comes to a class with a different set of skills that they might not, if they're the HR manager at a firm, they might not know how the manufacturing side goes, but by the time they complete an MBA, they're going to know what the manufacturing side does. They're going to have a better understanding of it and an understanding of how that fits into the big picture of operating a business, and that's our goal.
Was it? I'm sorry if I missed it. Was this also true regarding experience?
In terms of experience that people bring?
Yeah. Is there requirements?
Well,
if you can answer generally, yeah.
We would prefer students have some experience. If they don't, we try to create experiences for them here. There is some of the international students that do come don't have any experience. When they come, we try to get them actively involved with internships, and we've been very successful doing that, to get them involved with different businesses in the area, to give them a very, very unique perspective and a very fresh look of new eyes onto a problem, and it works really, really well. So if they don't come with a couple years of experience, we can attempt to get them experience either through our alumni network or the contacts that we all have in the community in Northeast United States, and we get them out there and get them experience. I think I currently have somewhere between 15 and 20 graduate students who are doing internship experiences right now as we speak for the whole summer. And they're international students, so they're students that are coming, they're working, and they kind of give me their wish list and tell me if I had my choice, this is the kind of company I'd like to go to, and then we work with local contacts and try to make those wishes come true. And that's the big difference between us and the big schools, that our faculty are extremely hands-on. Our faculty, students will get to know and become very close friends with particular faculty, and those faculty will work with other faculty to try to create opportunities for those students, in internships, in real work experience type things, in meeting people who are actually running and operating businesses, and it's worked out really exceptionally well to get our students great experiences.
Great. So you mentioned earlier on this in this webinar that most MBA programs in the U.S. are 2 to 3 years. So my understanding is that most of these programs try to provide some sort of hands-on internship experience to students before they graduate. I guess my other question was that you mentioned that there are internship opportunities at your school. Is it formatted in a way that students can earn credits towards graduation from these internship hours, or more broadly, do you know any MBA programs in the U.S. that try to corporate kind of have both of them integrated into their program, have the work experience as well as the education, kind of like a co-op type of program? Do you know if those programs exist, or does Marywood kind of offer anything like that, like a co-op education for MBAs?
Yeah, we offer a really interesting array. We try, you can take an internship for credit. We don't try to do that with students right out of the box, because we want them to have, particularly students that don't have a lot of experience, we want them to gain a lot of experience and gain a lot of the classroom knowledge that they're going to need to perform well in an internship. So what we do is we get them the internship at the end of their MBA experience, sometime between the last year to year and a half of their experience before they complete it. But we have demands for interns that far exceed the number of students that we have to go on the internship. So we've been very, very fortunate with placing students into situations where they're very, very oriented towards learning. And we have them with tech companies. We have placed students in the past. We have current and large number of students that are at Disney in Florida that are doing internships there, both undergraduate and graduate students that are participating there. The internship opportunities are really, really endless. And local employers are always looking for, again, a different view, a different set of eyes to look on a problem and try to figure it out. We can either do short, like 2-week type internships, a series of short 2-week type internships, or a long semester-long one with a particular company. I have students right now working in hospitals, medical research facilities, pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, for the U.S. government, working in different aspects of U.S. government, working in the Internal Revenue Service here in the United States. So there's the opportunities are really, really endless. And for graduate students, again, we try to get them, if they have no experience, we try to get them those little internships that are going to give them very practical experience related to the classwork that they're doing. And then we look for a big internship for them in the end. And that's something that you get at a smaller institution that you don't get at a bigger institution. I think we're kind of unique in that we really, really work hard on behalf of our students to get them very, very good internship experiences.
Last but not least, I think this is a very important question that most of my students ask me, and I think that's true for a lot of international students, and it's very true for Iranian students who want to come here and study in the U.S. I think the question is funding, how to fund an MBA program. To give us a general sense, how much does an MBA program cost on average? I don't know if you know, like the estimate of how much they generally.
It really, really varies from institution to institution. So you may have some schools where it's $35,000 for an academic year. Some are significantly less. Some people offer scholarships. Some people do not. So I think the student really needs to take a look at what their finances are and how much are they willing to spend, and what ultimately do they want to get out of this degree. So for Marywood, for example, we're about $14,000 a year. We do offer scholarships, so that makes it very feasible for a student. If you go to a large state or large research institution, they may charge upwards of 20 to 25,000 or possibly even more. So it really depends, and you really need to ask a lot of questions. Most schools will put their costs right on their website, and again, talk to the admissions office and find out. And always ask about fees. Everyone asks about what's the tuition, what are the living costs, but what kind of fees? General fees, parking fees, there's all kinds of different fees, graduation, matriculation fees. A student should usually budget about $1,500 for just fees on top of their tuition.
So you said Marywood tuition is 4,000 or 40,000?
14,000 per academic year. So it's very reasonable.
Okay. And what are the range of scholarships that you offer to international students? Or if you have
We started about $3,000. We actually have a student from Kazakhstan this year pursuing an MBA with us who's getting $11,000. So basically her tuition is going to be $3,000. That's a pretty good deal.
So for my curious students, what is your criteria for selection for a scholarship? Is it academics or
Right. We're looking at the academics, and this particular student had a very good GPA. It was above a 3.0 GPA, 3.0 GPA on a 4-point scale, and they also had a lot of experience. So for admissions-wise, do we really need the experience? Not necessarily, but in order to get those big scholarships, there's actually 2 scholarships that she got. To get those larger amounts, we're looking for students that do have previous experience. That's not necessarily required for admission to the university.
Okay. Another question I was going to ask you, can international students get any sort of loans in the U.S.? I mean, I know they don't qualify for federal loans, but are there any loans that you're aware of where
Right.
MBA students more specifically can?
You really need to be careful. Yes, you're correct. You cannot get a loan from the federal government in the United States. There are some places that do give loans, but the interest rate, last I checked, was very, very high. It's about 25%, and your debt would just be huge. So I'd be very careful about loans. I would almost go as far as to say you might not want to go towards a loan and maybe look for a school that's more reasonable with the costs, if it's that much of a concern.
Because my understanding is that some schools also have started offering loans to students where they would basically allow students to pay their tuition after they graduate. I think for some MBA programs this is true. They graduate and they start working and then they start making the payments. Does Marywood have any loan programs?
I'm not familiar with institutions of higher education being giving out loans and being a broker, but many institutions, including Marywood, will offer what's called a payment plan. So you don't need to pay everything on the first day of school. You can spread it out over payments over the course of the semester, or even possibly the year, depending on the school.
Right. I guess these are the main questions that I had in mind about. So if a student wants to apply to Marywood University, they would just go online, contact an admissions counselor, and work with them. And the application process is online. All the information regarding your programs, what majors and what specializations are offered in your MBA program. All those information is online, right? What is your website again? Could you tell us?
www.marywood.edu. Students can also contact me directly at my email address, which is digregorio@marywood.edu.
So they can contact you regarding any questions they have regarding admissions. So I guess in the end, I mean, we're kind of running out of time now. Why should a student come to Marywood as opposed to any other institution? What is one thing that Marywood is very proud of, and they will provide to students? And what is one compelling reason that students should come to Marywood to study?
I think both of us want to answer that question,
Yes,
so
you do.
I'm going to go first.
Okay.
One is I think how we handle the student's application right from the time that they apply all the way to their visa interview, getting them to campus, making sure they're taken care of. We work very closely with the students, and whatever questions they have, we get back to the students. So I've called students right after their visa appointment and asked them, how did it go? Do you need anything? What kind of questions do you have for me? You know, and I understand some students may be shy, but don't be afraid to email me. We can do a Skype call, whatever you need. I think we're really just proud of what a cohesive group we are, not only with the people who work together here, but with all the students that study. We're a very friendly campus, close-knit community, and I think that's something that we're very proud of and that we really strive for.
I would agree. From my side, the small nature of our program and the relationships that students develop not only with faculty and staff here is so important to having a successful MBA study program. And you know, our faculty are hands-on. We're actively involved. We're constantly doing you know, different events with our students throughout the semester. You know, I went to a very large institution. I went to a place called Temple University in Philadelphia, and it was huge. And I only got to know, in my 4 years there, 2 faculty members on a first name, very close basis. Here, every student knows us. Every student knows that they can pick the phone up and call us if they've got a problem, or if they need help with anything, or if they're looking for an internship or selecting the right classes, or want to start a business. They know who to go to, and they know where the resources are and how to get help. And that's the thing I'm most proud of here, is that there isn't a student in this program that doesn't have my personal cell phone number and the cell phone numbers of almost every faculty member, and can pick them up and call them anytime and discuss with them, hey, you know, I have this opportunity that presented itself. What would you do? And we will talk them through it. We will help them, and if we can't, we'll refer them to somebody that we think can. And it's just a unique learning environment. And we have been so fortunate, not only with our students and our faculty, but the support of the administration to build this type of program that's really unique in the United States, and it's really unique almost anywhere in the world, the amount of interaction that students will have with faculty.
And I would also just add to that last part, cost. We're very cheap.
Yeah.
It's $14,000 per academic year, and we do offer scholarships.
And it's 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's generally it's 2 years, yes.
Wonderful. And it seems to me that you have a very great support system in place for international students, and that's something.
Yes.
I think that's very important. Just to kind of relating to that, so once the international students come to your school, also do you have counselors that specifically work with international students. Just regarding the people, anything from finding internship, from finding an apartment or housing or any sort of like helping them with transportation, setting up bank accounts, all that stuff. Do you have counselors, right?
Actually, right in our acceptance letter are some suggestions where you can find apartments if you don't want to live on campus. You can live on campus. Maybe you just want to live on campus for a few months, maybe one semester until you know the area a little bit. You can do that too. We're happy to do that. Meal plans are optional for graduate students. Maybe you want to eat what we have in the cafeteria. Maybe you want to cook for yourself. That's perfectly fine. When you arrive to campus, there is a new international student orientation. We'll help you set up bank accounts. We'll take you to the store to get you those things that might have been too big for your suitcase, that sort of thing, and help orient you to campus. I don't know if you want to talk about setting up internships.
Yeah, in terms of setting up internships, we set up the internships. We have faculty that will make, actually this next couple of weeks, going out and contacting various businesses in northeastern Pennsylvania that are close to campus. And we set them up for a lot of the students, particularly the international students who might not have a car or a way of getting around. We try to make them that are on the bus runs, that they can get to them and easily access the sites where the internships are being held. And we really assist them in getting the right internship, the right place, and getting the right types of experience that they need and want in order to succeed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining this webinar with Education USA Iran branch supported by the State Department. This webinar was really informative, and I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to us about your institution. If you have any final thoughts or you want to add to anything, just please go ahead. But otherwise, it was great meeting you both, Christian in person and Dr. Christopher, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been our pleasure, and we look forward to communicating with you and dealing with students' questions here in the near future.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we had the opportunity to meet, and I look forward to meeting you and your students in the near future.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
دوستان عزیز، خیلی ممنون که به این وبینار اومدید. وبینار امروز ما درباره برنامه‌های MBA بودش در ایالات متحده که دوتا مهمان داشتیم. امیدوارم که از این وبینار راضی بوده باشید و اطلاعات مفیدی برای درخواست کردن به ایالات متحده به شما داده شده باشه. خیلی ممنون که به این وبینار اومدید. وبینارهای آینده ما هم چک کنید، تو آدرس فیسبوکمون هست. این وبینار تو اکانت یوتیوبمون و فیسبوکمون شیر میشه با شما و میتونید در آینده شما این وبینار رو ببینید. اگر سوالی دارید خواهش میکنم در قسمت کامنت این ویدیو بر ما بذارید. فعلا خدا نگهدار باشه و ازتون تشکر میکنم که به این وبینار اومدید. خدا نگهدار.